Let's talk about confidence, Season 2, Episode 3. Decisions as identity. Choosing what you want without apology. Welcome back to Let's Talk About Confidence. I'm John M. Walsh. Over the last 2 episodes, we've explored why capable people accept less than they're capable of, and how to picture a life that actually fits you. Today we're talking about the mechanism that make any of that real: decisions. Most people think decisions are about outcomes. They're not. Decisions are about identity. Every time you choose something, you're not just selecting an option, you're declaring who you are, what you value, and what kind of life you're willing to accept. Every time you avoid choosing, delay choosing, or choose out of fear rather than clarity, you're making a different kind of statement. I don't trust myself to want what I want. The confident life isn't built through perfect choices. It's built through the willingness to choose at all, clearly, honestly, and without needing the world's permission first. For many people, the problem isn't knowing what they want. The problem is giving themselves permission to want it. They know the job isn't right. They know the relationship has run its course. They know the friendship's one-sided. And they know their lifestyle is draining them. But they don't act because they're waiting for certainty, the right time, someone else to agree, evidence that they won't regret it, proof that their choice won't hurt anyone. So they wait, and waiting becomes a decision by default, a decision to stay where they are, to keep tolerating what they've outgrown, to protect everyone else's comfort while abandoning their own. Here's what's happening neurologically. Psychologist Barry Schwartz, his research on the paradox of choices shows that more options often lead to worse decisions and less satisfaction. But it's deeper than that. When a decision carries emotional weight, your brain's conflict, monitoring system centred in the anterior cingulate cortex activates. This is the same region involved in pain processing. Difficult decisions literally hurt. So your brain does what brains do. It avoids pain. It delays. It seeks more information. It waits for certainty that never arrives. The longer someone waits to choose, the smaller the life becomes. Not because they made a wrong choice, but because they made no choice at all. And somewhere along the line, many people learned that their wants are negotiable. That wanting something wasn't enough. That other people's comfort mattered more than their own clarity. That making a choice for themselves was selfish, unless they could justify it to everyone first. And this shows up in subtle ways. Needing others to validate your decisions before you trust them. Over-explaining your choices as if they need defending. And feeling guilty for doing what's right for you. Saying yes when you mean no. And asking for advice when you already know the answer. Now, none of this is a weakness, it's conditioning. For years, you may have been rewarded for being agreeable, flexible, accommodating. Those traits helped you survive certain environments like family systems or workplaces or relationships where saying what you wanted created conflict. But what works for survival doesn't work for growth. And at some point, if you want a life that fits you, you have to stop asking for permission to live it. One of the clearest signs that someone has lost themselves is this. They apologise for taking up space. They apologise for having preferences, for needing time, for changing their mind, for saying no, asking for what they want, being unavailable, disappointing someone, or choosing differently. And apologising isn't always wrong. Sometimes it's appropriate. It's necessary. It's the kind thing to do. But when apology becomes your default response to existing as yourself, it's no longer politeness, it's self-erasure. The apologetic life is exhausting because it requires constant monitoring. Am I being too much? Will this upset someone? Should I just go along with it? What if they think I'm difficult? People who live this way aren't weak. They're often highly empathetic, deeply responsible, and genuinely kind. But empathy without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. And kindness that requires you to disappear isn't kindness, it's a performance. Choosing without apology doesn't mean being aggressive, uncaring or dismissive. It means you state clearly what you want. You don't over-explain yourself or justify unnecessarily. You tolerate other people's disappointment without collapsing. You let decisions stand without seeking approval. And you accept that some people just won't understand. And you choose anyway. Here's a shift in practice. Instead of, I'm sorry, I know this is annoying, but I can't make it tonight. Something came up and I feel terrible about it. Instead of that, say this, I won't be able to make it tonight. Let's reschedule soon. Instead of, I'm overthinking this, but I've been wondering if this job is really right for me, although I'm probably being ungrateful. Instead of saying that, you say, I'm exploring other options. This role doesn't align with where I want to go. Instead of, is it okay if you say, I've decided to. The shift is subtle, but it's profound. You're not asking for permission. You're informing people of your choice. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you're becoming. Not in some abstract motivational way, in a literal, neurological way. Your brain builds your sense of self from patterns of behaviour. When you repeatedly choose comfort, your identity becomes someone who avoids risk. When you repeatedly seek approval, your identity becomes someone who needs validation. And when you repeatedly delay, your identity becomes someone who waits for permission. But when you repeatedly choose clarity over comfort, alignment over approval, action over delay, your identity shifts. I'm someone who backs myself. I'm someone who trusts my judgment. I'm someone who chooses what's right for me. You don't need to announce this. You don't need to explain it. You just start living it. And the identity follows. Here's encouraging neuroscience. Every decision strengthens specific neural pathways. Choose alignment once and the pathways faint. Choose it 10 times and it's stronger. Choose it 100 times and it becomes your default. This is neuroplasticity in action. You're not stuck with the decision-making patterns you developed in childhood or in your 20s. You're building new ones with every choice you make today. Confident people don't make perfect decisions, but they make 3 types of decisions consistently. The first type is boundary decisions. These protect your time, energy, and self-respect. Examples are saying no to things that drain you, leaving conversations that don't serve you, and ending commitments that no longer fit, and refusing to participate in dynamics that harm you. Boundary decisions feel uncomfortable because they often disappoint others. But disappointment is not damage, and protecting yourself is not cruelty. The second type, direction decisions. These move you toward the life you want, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Examples, applying for the role you're not sure you're ready for. Starting the project before you feel certain. Having the difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Investing in yourself before it feels safe. Direction decisions feel risky because they require commitment before clarity. But clarity doesn't create movement. Movement creates clarity. The third type is identity decisions. These are choices that reinforce who you're becoming, regardless of external reward. Examples, choosing the hardest right thing over the easier wrong thing. Speaking honestly when it would be simpler to stay quiet. Showing up for yourself when no one's watching and honouring your values when it costs you something. Identity decisions feel significant because they are. They're the ones you remember. They're the ones that change you. One of the main reasons people struggle to choose is fear of regret. What if I choose wrong? What if I regret this? What if this ruins everything? But here's the truth about regret. People rarely regret the things they did. They regret the things they didn't do. The job they didn't apply for, the person they didn't speak to, the life they didn't try to build, the risk they didn't take when they had the chance. Regret doesn't come from action. It comes from inaction, and that stretches across years. And even when a decision doesn't work out the way you hoped, you still gain something irreplaceable. evidence that you're capable of choosing. You're capable of acting. You're capable of learning. You're capable of adjusting. And that capability is worth more than any single outcome. And the research supports this. Studies on end-of-life regret consistently show that people regret inaction more than action. They regret the chances not taken, the words not spoken, the authentic life not lived. The pain of a wrong choice fades. The pain of no choice lingers. Part of what makes decisions feel so heavy is the belief that everyone's watching, judging, waiting for you to fail. And the simple truth is they're not. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. In studies, researchers had participants wear embarrassing t-shirts and estimate how many people noticed. Participants consistently believed about 50% of the people noticed. The actual number? Around 25%. We dramatically overestimate how much attention others pay to our choices, our mistakes, our lives. Most people are too busy worrying about their own decisions to scrutinise yours. And this matters because fear of judgment is one of the biggest barriers to choosing authentically. We imagine an audience that barely exists. When you're afraid to make a decision because of what people might think, remember, they're thinking about themselves. Your choice occupies far less of their mental space than your brain suggests. At some point in building a confident life, something fundamental changes. You stop asking, can I? And start asking, do I want to? You stop asking, will people approve? And start asking, does this align with who I am? And you stop asking, is this allowed? And start thinking, is this right for me? That shift from permission to ownership is the moment confidence stops being a feeling and becomes a way of living. You're no longer waiting for life to offer you options, you're creating them. And your neuroscience here is clear. When you operate from permission seeking, your brain's reward system is tied to external validation. Dopamine releases when others approve. This makes you dependent on feedback you can't control. When you operate from ownership, reward becomes internal. Dopamine releases when you act in alignment with your values, regardless of external response. Now this is sustainable confidence. Most people think confidence begins with action. It doesn't. It begins with a decision. The decision to take yourself seriously. Not arrogantly, not rigidly, not perfectly. Just seriously. When you decide to take yourself seriously, your wants stop being negotiable. Your boundaries stop being suggestions. Your direction stops being up for debate. And the life you want becomes something you build, not something you wait for permission to live. Here's your practice for the week. Make one decision you've been avoiding, not a massive life-changing one, just something you've been hesitating on. It could be declining an invitation you don't want to accept, stating a preference clearly instead of deferring it, choosing something for yourself without explaining why, or setting a boundary without softening it with an apology. Then notice this, how it feels to choose without asking permission, whether the consequences were as catastrophic as you feared, how your sense of self shifts when you back your own decisions. Confidence doesn't grow from making perfect choices. It grows from making your choices, clearly, honestly, without apology. And every time you do, you prove to yourself that you're capable of living on your terms. That proof is what builds a confident life. Next episode, we're talking about clarity and certainty, specifically why waiting until you're sure is a trap, and how to act with 70% clarity while trusting yourself to figure out the rest. I'm John M. Walsh. This is Let's Talk About Confidence. I'll see you next week.